Good day everyone. Now, we will discuss the part 2 of lesson in the different aspects of moral agents. In this video, we will discuss these following topics. First, we will discuss the developing virtue as habit. And lastly, we will discuss the 6 stages of moral development. Now, let us discuss our first lesson, entitled Developing Virtue as Habit. One of the aspects that develops our moral behavior is to cultivate our own character that is inclined in the different virtues. Aristotle, on his Nicomachean Ethics Book 2, and one of the well-known philosophers, referred it as moral character. Moral character refers to the existence or lack of virtues, such as integrity, courage, fortitude, honesty, and loyalty. In other words, we can attain moral character through repetitive practice of moral and intellectual virtues. To understand Aristotle's concept of virtue as habit, let us watch this video.
O wise Aristotle, please help me understand the concept of virtue ethics.
Who said that?
I'm sorry. I forgot that you can't see me. I'm a college student from the future at Ozarks Technical Community College.
From the future. Why can't I see you?
I'm inside a computer program performing a Google search. I found you online.
Computer. Google. Online. I'm confused. But since we don't have much time and I know that I don't understand everything, I will try to explain virtue ethics to you, O voice without a body.
Great. Wait a second while I get my pen and paper.
We ancient Greeks emphasize what is known as virtue. Virtue is essentially someone's character. If you do not have virtue, you have vice.
How do you obtain virtue?
Virtue comes from a life that seeks truth through the application of reason. Our soul, or mind, contains both virtues and passions.
Passions.
Yes, passions are bodily appetites, emotions, and feelings accompanying pleasure and pain. We all have them and they are neither good nor bad in themselves. Virtues are related to the choices we make in response to our passions. Based on our reason and learning, our virtues are disposed to make good choices in relation to our passions. In other words, your character.
Whoa. That makes sense.
Traits of character, such as being short-tempered or greedy, stop us from leading a good life. These are vices. Other traits of character, such as being kind or courageous, help us to lead a good life, and these are the virtues. Every passion has extremes. At one end, it can be good, and at the other, it can be bad. We have truthfulness as a virtue. Its vice is deceit and its excess is boastfulness. Courage is a virtue, but its vice is cowardice and its excess is rashness. Depending on the situation, severity, and circumstances, our character determines which direction to go in the extremes. The goal is to exercise just the right emphasis of the virtue. This is called the doctrine of the mean.
I hate to say it, but this is actually making sense to me. Where have you been all my life?
Probably in books you never bothered to read.
Ouch. You got me there.
But let's finish. We are not virtuous by nature. It requires habit. The virtues are there, but you must choose to use them. Eventually they become part of your character. Acting in character that is driven by the ethical issue should produce the correct virtue. Sadly, many people fail to develop the virtuous character.
Now I have a good idea what virtue ethical theory means. I can't thank you enough.
Well, if you ever need any more discussion, feel free to come back. I'll be here.
Thank you. I'll be working on my virtuous self.
We need always to choose and to follow of what good character to us. Let us remember the words of Aristotle. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but is a habit. It means that in order for us to become virtuous, we need to be mindful of what action we repeatedly do, because sometimes our habitual practices shapes our own characteristics, or through achieving the golden mean of Aristotle, that speaks We need to avoid extreme and counsel the moderation of all things. Now, let us move on our next lesson, entitled 6 Stages of Moral Development. The theory of 6 stages of moral development was introduced to us by Lawrence Kohlberg. His theory is the development of Jean Piaget's theory of moral development. The 6 stages of moral development is composed of 3 distinct levels of moral reasoning, with 2 substages in its stages. These are the 3 levels of 6 moral development. First, we have pre-conventional morality. Second one, conventional morality. And lastly, post-conventional morality. To understand what is Kohlberg's 6 stages of moral development, let us watch this video.
Kohlberg's 6 stages of moral development. Before we dive into the discussion on the key concepts of Kohlberg's 6 stages of moral development, let me provide a very brief background on Kohlberg and his theory. Needless to say, this is important so that we can put the discussion on Kohlberg's 6 stages of moral development in a proper context. In this way, we can make more sense of the topic under discussion. First of all, Lawrence Kohlberg was a professor of education and social psychology at Harvard University. He began as a developmental psychologist, and then moved to the field of education. He was influenced by the Swiss psychologist, Jean Piaget, who was famous for his theory on the moral development of children. Kohlberg was particularly well known for his theory of moral development, which he developed through his extensive research on the topic at Harvard's Center for Moral Education. As is well known, Kohlberg's theory of moral development was derived from his interviews with young boys distributed from early childhood to late adolescence. In these interviews, Kohlberg asked the participants to respond to hypothetical ethical dilemmas, such as a man contemplating on stealing a drug to save his dying wife because he cannot afford the drug after exhausting all possibilities to pay for it. The result of the interviews showed a pattern of responses, which suggested a progression in moral reasoning. Thus, was born the theory of moral development, which, for Kohlberg, is the basis for ethical behavior. Kohlberg thought that moral development involves a specific process and time, and that people progressed in their moral reasoning through a series of stages. It is important to note that Kohlberg followed the development of moral judgment beyond the ages originally studied by Piaget, who claimed that logic and morality developed through constructive stages. Kohlberg expanded considerably on this groundwork, determining that the process of moral development was principally concerned with justice, and that its development continued throughout the lifespan, even spawning dialogue of philosophical implications of his research. The result of the study allowed Kohlberg to come up with his famous 6 stages of moral development, which could be generally classified into 3 levels, namely, pre-conventional level, conventional level, and post-conventional level. The formulation of Kohlberg's theory is shown in the table below. As we can see, the 6 stages of moral development are divided into 3 levels, and each level has 2 stages, each of which has a corresponding social orientation. Let me briefly explain each stage below. Pre-conventional level. The pre-conventional level is concerned primarily with the consequences of one's action. According to Kohlberg, persons in this level simply pursue their own interest, while at the same time avoid sanctions. Here, children base their judgments on external consequences, for example, punishment and reward. Hence, at this level, obedience is based on authority. As we can see, morality in the pre-conventional level is externally controlled, and children behave accordingly, that is, accept and believe the rules imposed by authority figures, such as parents, teachers, and community elders. Hence, children in the pre-conventional level have not yet internalized the society's conventions about what is right and wrong. Instead, they focus largely on external consequences that certain actions engender, such as, again, reward and punishment. As already mentioned, there are two stages in this level. The first stage is concerned with punishment and authority. Here, the child behaves according to socially acceptable rules or norms because she is told to do so by some authority figure like her parents, teachers, pastors or clergy and elders in the community. According to Kohlberg, the child obeys the rules to avoid punishment. The second stage is concerned with one's own interest, or advantage. Kohlberg observes that children behave in the right way because they thought that doing so brings practical results. Hence, as Kohlberg sees it, one obeys the norms because it is beneficial to oneself. Here, moral decisions are made based on the rewards one can receive. More importantly, moral reasoning in the second stage shows a limited interest in others and, as a result, concern for others is based on instrumental reason, for example, the scratch my back and I'll scratch yours mentality, rather than on loyalty or intrinsic respect. Conventional level. If in the pre-conventional level the child is concerned primarily with the consequences of his own action, in the conventional level the child is concerned more with societal relationship with emphasis on social conformity. As we can see, in the conventional level, there is a shift from self-interest to relationship with other people and social systems. Here, according to Kohlberg, the individual strives to support rules that are set forth by others, such as parents, peers, and the government to win their approval, or to maintain social order. Thus, in the conventional level, children continue to accept the rules of authority figures not because of self-interest, but because they thought that behaving according to said rules will necessarily ensure positive relationships and societal order. It is interesting to note that according to Kohlberg, rules and conventions are somewhat rigid in this level, but individuals seldom question said rules and conventions. This is because, again, behaving according to these rules and conventions ensure positive relationships and societal order. And since people in this level are more concerned with the opinions of others, moral decisions, therefore, are made based on what the others may say. According to Kohlberg, the third and fourth stages of moral development belong to this level. The third stage is concerned with peer and group acceptance. This stage, according to Kohlberg, is characterized by a behavior that seeks to do that which gains the approval of peers. Hence, Kohlberg says that the reactions of others are somehow the basis of decision-making and behavior. For this reason, peer and group acceptance become the rule of the day, and that an individual behaves accordingly to maintain good relationships with others. The fourth stage is concerned with legalistic orientation. This stage, according to Kohlberg, is characterized by obedience to the law, responding to the obligations of duty, and respect of those in authority. Hence, this stage emphasizes the upholding of the law, order, doing one's duty, and obeying social norms. Kohlberg believes that this stage is important because there is a higher value in obeying the law than by simply seeking the approval of one's peers. As we can see, moral reasoning in this stage goes beyond the need for individual approval that characterized stage 3. Hence, in stage 4, children blindly obey the law because of their importance to maintain a well-functioning society. Post-conventional level. The post-conventional level, which is focused on the common good and universal moral principles, is the most challenging level. According to Kohlberg, persons at this level make judgment based on impartial universal moral principles, even when these judgments may conflict with societal standards. Hence, in this level, the individual's sense of morality is defined in terms of abstract principles and values. For this reason, individuals now believe that some laws are unjust. Thus, they must be repelled, if not eliminated. According to Kohlberg, The post-conventional level is also characterized by a growing realization that individuals are separate entities from society, and that they may disobey rules that are inconsistent with their own beliefs and principles. As we can see, for Kohlberg, post-conventional individuals live by their own ethical principles, which typically include basic human rights, such as the right to life, liberty, and justice. Kohlberg also notes that post-conventional individuals view rules as useful but are always changeable, rather than absolute dictates that must be obeyed without question. Hence, in this level, laws and rules will only be considered as significant mechanism for maintaining harmony and order in the society. According to Kohlberg, the fifth and sixth stages belong to this level. The fifth stage is concerned with the common good. In fact, as Kohlberg says, this stage is anchored on the understanding of social mutuality and genuine interest in the welfare of others. Here, laws and rules are considered as social contracts, and these are for the good of the community, and for equal protections of individual rights. For this reason, laws can only be accepted or approved relative to the common good of the society. The sixth and last stage is concerned with respect for universal principle, such as the principles of justice, dignity, and equality. That is why, for Kohlberg, the basis of one's action is not just the common good, or a social contract, but a deeper universal principles. Hence, according to Kohlberg, moral decision is not just based on the laws and rules of the society, but on one's conscience. Now, as already hinted above, individuals grow and develop in progression, that is, from one stage to another. And it is important to note that for Kohlberg, an individual cannot just jump from stage 1 to, say, stage 4 without passing through stages 2 and 3. Thus, for Kohlberg, one's moral development is linear, and is ordered hierarchically.
Indeed, Kohlberg's 6 stages of moral development gave us a psychological understanding on how a person develops their own moral behavior, from pre-conventional up to post-conventional stages of morality. Thank you for listening. Some questions we'll entertain after this video.